In this video, I'll show you how to sketch out a 3D perspective of any building freehand without using complicated perspective setups, no 3D modeling, no rulers, no hassle, just pure creativity. Let's dive right into it. We'll look at the practical example in a second, but first let's understand a couple of concepts. First, if you boil down your building to the base primitive, in 99% cases it will be a cuboid, so something that looks like this. And it's super easy to draw cuboids in perspective because basically they consist of two trapezoidal shapes that are unequal. So if we add two of these trapezoids together, you'll get a cuboid like this. It can be quite easy to screw up the angle a little bit so that, these can look quite weird. So the rule of thumb I always follow is that the bottom two lines have to be almost parallel to the edge of the paper, but not quite. And then the verticals are always parallel to this edge of the paper, and that the top lines, depending on how tall your building is, will be quite exaggerated, like so. And the bigger and wider the building is, the more exaggerated that angle can be. Or if it's smaller, then the angle of the top lines will be less shallow. Now there's also a concept of the horizon line, which in this case would probably be somewhere here. The rule of thumb is that, your lines have to kind of converge to these vanishing points. So I can quickly check if my perspective is correct. This is very rough representation just to get the point across. Distance from here to here is the viewer's eye line, which is between 1.6 and 1.8 meters high. But in all fairness, I never use this approach when it comes to sketching out drawings because one, it's a bit too limiting to sketch inside the box, and two, I'm never quite happy with the angle that I get when I first draw up a perspective cube. So instead, what I usually do is I employ a slightly different principle. So if I create a new layer to demonstrate what I mean, is in my mind, I subdivide the page in kind of 4 quadrants. What I basically imagine that this top corner of my page is going to be the front face of the building, or it can be flipped as well. I'm going to have this other face of my building on this side, and then lastly I'll have the bottom edges on the bottom. So just to show you what I mean, if I draw a kind of perspective, my vanishing point probably going to be somewhere outside the page, and then the same here, the vanishing point going to be somewhere further down. So essentially everything that I sketch in like this kind of area here will be mostly to do with the front face, and all the lines from that gonna go down this way. So just to show you an example of what I mean, I'll create another new layer and I'll draw a bunch of boxes or front faces. So, all my lines that are going up and down are parallel to the edge of the paper, so that's easy. All I have to worry about is I kind of in my head has to notionally remember that all the lines that go kind of this way gradually will gonna come down to the horizon line, which is somewhere here, and then from that horizon line they'll continue downwards. Now as I can finish these boxes by pulling in the opposite direction. Again, same principle applies. The lines that I'm pulling are all following roughly where the second vanishing point will be. And once again, I can finish off with the vertical lines. So this is essentially how any sketch that I do is made. It's made from kind of visualizing where I want my front face to be and then pulling lines away from that in the depth of the perspective. So let's look at the more practical example of this. Once again, I'll create a new layer and I'll just start drawing a building or a house that I want to see. And I'll start very roughly by finding the corner of the building. This time I kind of want to elongate the building that goes that way. So the biggest plane that I will have is going to be in this side of the cube, and this is going to be the edge of the building. So roughly speaking, my quadrant is going to be like so. The horizon line here, the edge of the building here, and then the biggest face is going to be on this side. But I'm not going to draw everything at once. I'm just going to start drawing kind of bit by bit what I want to see. I want to have an overhanging roof. I want to have some thickness to that roof. I want to then find an upright that would support the roof and another one on the opposite side. Then I want to have the first floor line, which, as you remember, if this is the upper roof, all the lines are going to be, if this is the upper roof, all the lines are kind of want to go that way, and the lower we get, the more lines are going to be parallel to the page. And once again, I want to have a little step from the slab edge and show the supporting upright. Again, keeping in mind that like this angle is going to be much steeper than this one, where the upright connects to the slab. And then let's say roughly this is where my horizon line, I guess, would be. From that point on, we'll have kind of shallow lines going upways. You can see here I'm not super concerned with the accuracy of this drawing just yet because I'll have another pass over it. I'm just kind of trying to set up the rules to follow. You can also see that I'm not actually drawing a box. I'm letting the geometry kind of sprawl from this beginning. Over the years, I found this to be a very useful way to draw sketches because one, you're not bound to a kind of set box, and two, it just allows me to do sketches in a bit more clear way. So I try not to do too many lines. I'm just trying to prioritize the clarity over how accurate this drawing is so I can, in the next pass, understand what I'm doing. And maybe I'll have one panel that's actually not recessed, just for variety, and then continue with recesses beyond that. So I think the point is, if this is not super polished drawing, but as long as there's a general direction, general sense of where the lines are going, that's good enough. And then let me just draw a horizon line with possibly some foliage at the background. Perhaps bushes as well. A road in front of the building. I'll add some shrubs and things in front of it as well, just to give some depth. And that's pretty much it. For this next layer, I can cheat a little bit and I can actually set up the perspective from this just to guide me a little bit. One thing that I forgot to mention is generally when you set up these drawings, aim to have one of the faces longer than another. So I usually, as a rule of thumb, I'd either do 3/4 versus 1/4 on this side, or 2/3 versus 1/3 on that side, or vice versa, depending which way you are looking at it. And I'll just reduce the opacity of the layer underneath and proceed sketching over the top. And what I'm trying to do here is to kind of make sure that the foreshortening of the perspective carries on. So if this side is, for example, equal in reality to that side, I'll just have to make sure that, if that's equal to that, then this width is slightly less than this one as it goes towards the end. And so are these widths. So I'm just trying to make sure, that if this is equal to that side, then this is slightly wider than that. Again, just a little tip to keep perspective more or less realistic. Okay, so this starts to look pretty good. I'll just turn off the drawing guide, and then I might add some railings to this just for some interest. Firstly, I'll add these side posts just to support the building at the edges. If you enjoyed this video, you might also like this video right here that is about sketching interior perspectives freehand. So if you'd like to advance your natural kind of sketching skills without using any complicated tools and you want to sketch faster, then I recommend you check this video out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next time, bye bye.